We're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hostels.
This Christmas, add postpaid for a festive win-win. We're gifting you a 50-inch smart TV or a $400 Amazon gift card. When you add a Flow postpaid mobile plan to your home internet, you can celebrate the most wonderful time of the year with a big screen or big shopping. Let us upsize your TV or clear your Amazon cart. Either way, you come out on top. Add postpaid to internet today for your festive win-win. Visit discoverflow.co for more info. Terms and conditions apply.
What are you doing?
She said, drink a root boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, drink a root boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, cause when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drink, drinking. Root boy. So when we drink, drinking. Root boy. Oh, Miss Lady. Anyway, you see we building up our vibes. So when we drink, drinking. Root boy. So when we drink, drinking. Root boy. Why?
And a pleasant good day to you and yours. The time approximately 4 minutes moving away from the 8 o'clock hour. And as per usual, when you hear my voice, first off, you know that it is most likely that Hortensia won't be in today, but she should be back with us again tomorrow. Again, I take the time to wish all of you out there, wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you happen to be doing, the best for the new year and beyond. Having said that, the new year has not started off quite well for us in this proximity due to what is happening to our neighbors not too far away from us. And we hope that this would somehow find some kind of amicable resolve, even though presently we can't seem to see how that is going to be, because we know exactly what motivates the actions that are taking place, presently. Today is Tuesday, the 6th of January, and that means that on a Tuesday at 8:30 we should be having the good doctor, and that would be at, like I said before, about 8:30. Today's program will be a rebroadcasting, and it will be in the vein of the effects of alcohol on the body, seeing that we just concluded or finished a carnival session, Sugar Mass, and it was abruptly closed because of a stabbing incident that sort of curtailed it going to its usual conclusion, and one can surmise that perhaps it was alcohol, perhaps not, but this is quite an appropriate episode because it deals with the effects of alcohol on the human body. So be sure to tune in and hear that. That is with Natalie Osborne. And up until then, I'll be keeping your company, and I hope it is not as boring and as monotonous as hearing the lovely lady's voice. Now, last evening I was listening to a program on a station on Nevis, and I was listening to some individuals speaking to what pertains or what they expect in Nevis ongoing for this new year and when election comes up and that kind of stuff. And along with the moderator, I heard a female individual whose name, I don't know the name in full, but I think the initials are JD. And though I was a bit impressed with the way she articulated, the way she expressed herself, I was a bit concerned also, because it's kind of I got the impression that here is a good politician, and I'm very wary when I get that impression that we're dealing with good politicians, because good politicians don't necessarily turn out to be good people. I'm not saying that she may not be a good politician or she's not a good person, but I was rather concerned about some of the things that she seemed quite willing to hedge on. It seems to me as if though she was willing to hedge on putting any responsibility on the federal government and wanting to place all on only Mark Brantley. And even though I will agree with her that Mark Brantley is responsible for what happens on Nevis mainly, there is still a federal government. And I do not want to see any or hear any Nevis politician trying to be too lax or passive when it comes to the federal government. The federal government has a responsibility and it should live up to that responsibility. I don't want to hear individuals saying, well, I didn't vote for the federal government. You don't have to vote for the federal government. The federal government is like a parent. You didn't choose your parent. They're there. And they have a responsibility to you, and they must live up to it. So expect something from the federal government. That is one. The other thing that concerned me was the way she sort of pushed aside whenever one tries to speak about, when the host tried to bring up anything to do with the United States and Trump. And she even at one point said again, well, we in Nevis and I didn't vote for Trump. Well, whether you voted for Trump, and it is true you can't determine what Trump will do, you can't stop what he will do. We are rather like in almost insignificant gnats or pests to the U.S. That is how they seem to view us, or maybe even less than that. But I have a concern when I hear, especially following the trend that I've seen. I remember Dame Eugenia Charles, and now we have Bessessa, and you see how they quickly accommodate the U.S. to the detriment of the Caribbean unity. And even though I may be wrong as it relates to this individual who goes by the initials JD, I am concerned that she, would sort of push that aside. I get the impression that she is either afraid to make comment, which I can kind of understand, but I don't agree with, or she is reluctant to do so because if she was ever in a position, she would be rather accommodating to whatever the U.S. wants, because you have this perception in your mind that, well, the U.S. is big and all powerful, and when they say jump, we should run. Again, that is a concern for me, and I am a Kitty Division or a Nevikitician, however you want to put it, with my roots stemming from Nevis, and so I'm concerned when I see or hear individuals trying to push aside certain statements and are reluctant to say it for what it is. Say it for what it is. When you don't say it for what it is, I am concerned. Okay? So to JD, I may be completely wrong. I am not a prophet. I am not able to dig into your mind and see and know how you think. But I am saying in the future when you speak, there are people out here who are listening to you and who want to hear you represent the issues and represent them in a wholehearted and honest manner. Do not try to hedge. Do not try to push certain things aside because they are uncomfortable. It tells me that if you become one of the incumbents, you would be likely to push certain things aside if they are uncomfortable. I will let you know, as you should be aware, to be in a position of leadership, just like being in a position of a parent, is not always and necessarily a comfortable position. There are very serious responsibilities that we must assess and that we must move along and cope with. So I would like to see you doing the same and get the impression that you will do the same. I hope that in the next instance when you are asked something about the United States, that you will state something that will give us the impression that you will be a bold individual, not an irresponsible individual, not to say anything reckless or so forth, but to say it as you see it. For instance, I thought you would have been able to at least say what is happening in the region is not a good thing, and we do not want to see that trend. I saw a brief comment from the lady in Barbados. The name is kind of eluding me right now, even though I'm well aware of what her name is. But my brain is sort of easing on that right now. But anyway, I saw a brief comment from her, and she followed the trend that she usually does, and I'm often rather proud of her because I often refer to her and I say that she seems to have more kahunas or more balls than even a lot of us the men. And so I would want to see and hear from you, even though you are a female, to feel that, hey, this is a female who is not going to be thwarted or pushed back on certain relevant issues. At least say, you do not like what has happened, you do not like what has happened. You want to tell me we're faced with individual potential leaders who are afraid to at least say, look, what the United States is presently doing is not something that is good for the world. I mean, you can't say that. You're hedging, and you go as far as to say, well, I didn't vote for Trump. Come on now. I expect better than that. And this is the thing that irritates me, because these new politicians don't seem to understand that we do not want the same old good politicians who conveniently hedge here and hum there and step aside from certain things. No. We want to see potential that will be promising. And when you hedge here and there, that doesn't look promising to me. Sorry if I start this new year and I seem to be a bit hard on you, but I would be hard on myself. As a matter of fact, I am hard on myself whenever I deal with things. It is because I have been, and I am hard on myself that I have made certain strides in my life. You cannot even be easy with yourself, because if you're easy with yourself, then it means you yourself are sidestepping the facts and the realities of life. And in this world that we exist, it does not bode anyone good to step aside from the realities of life. If something happens, if you make a mistake, own up to it. If you said something and you erred, come back and apologize about it. Don't feel like you're too much of a human being, or you're too much of a big adult, or you're too successful, or you're too whatever to face the realities of life. And so it is because I myself can face the realities of life that I expect everyone else to face the realities of life, and not giving me the impression that I was rather disappointed, because even though I will admit that there is potential, this is me speaking. I don't speak for everyone else, but I'm sure I'm not alone. I don't want to hear politicians who don't want to give any responsibility to the federal government and do not want to face worldwide issues because they impact us. Yes, it may be true that we cannot do much to curtail them, but at least we can speak about them. And when you choose not to want to speak about certain things, I am concerned. So I thought I'd start things with that. And now I'm going to take a bit of a commercial break, and I'll be right back. And if there's anyone out there who wishes to call and weigh in on whatever issue it is that surrounds us, then feel free to do so.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
What are you doing?
She said, drink a root boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You drink a rude boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, cause when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we building up our vibes. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. So when we drink, we drinking. Rude boy. Why?
Here are your Horsford's Volume at IGA New Year's Special.
Running December 25th to January 7th.
Now, our Value Club Blue Tag Special. Essential Everyday Cooking Oil Sprays are just $9.99 each. General Mills Family Size Cereals, $19.99. Essential Everyday Cooking Oils, just $13.99 each. Essential Everyday Barbecue Sauces, $7.99. Essential Everyday Cream Cheese Bars, $7.99. Essential Everyday Containers, just $15.99 each. And now our very low weekly
Value deals. Dunkin' Hine Fudge Brownies and Cake Mixes, $10.99. Planet Oat Milk, $11.99. Essential Everyday Pastas, $4.99. Imperial Margarine, $8.99. The Colgate Toothpaste, $6.99. The Colgate Toothbrush, medium and soft, $4.99. Shop smart, shop value mart. Tell them in Spanish.
Sea listo y haga sus compras aquí en Value Mart.
And I'm back with you. The time 20 minutes moving away from the 8 o'clock hour. And I just checked the phone apparatus here and I had to restart it. I had to reset it. And that means that for a while at least, I won't be able to get any calls because whenever it is resetted, it has to take some time before it actually adopts and adjusts to accepting call mode. So I'm hoping that that will be sooner rather than later, and so that you can call and express your views on whatever issue it is that you feel is worth airing your views on. Okay? And again, as I said in the just before that bit of commercial break, I don't know who this individual is, JD, and I do not want anyone to get the impression that I have any real problems with the individual. My only issue is that if you are going to be a politician in this era, we do not want to see the old school kind of politicians. We want to see a kind of a new politician who is ready to show us in every aspect possible that they are the best choice that we can make. Not that we are guessing or we're kind of concerned as to if and when you hold that position or title, where we're kind of uncertain as to how you will deal with certain issues. And so in terms of the issue of how Sister JD would deal with the federal government, I have a concern there. I do not want to feel that you are just, I don't want you to be combative with the federal government, but I do not want to get the impression that you are trying to be too cozy up with the federal government either, okay? And the same with the worldwide issues. Don't want to feel that you're trying to be bigger than what we are, because we're almost insignificant, it seems, in the world scheme of things, but we still exist, and we are still human beings. We still have feelings, we still have motivations, aspirations, and goals, and we should be able to say or put in our 2 cents. And I, for one, would like to know that any individual who represents the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is bold enough to do so without any reservations. Okay? Having said that, now I'm going to play a clip that deals with what has been happening in our proximity as it relates to our zone of peace. And I think the clips that I would play will be related to such, unless someone calls in whenever the phone locks into accepting your calls mode, and you can interject with your perspectives on whatever you feel is worthy of your chatter or expression. The numbers you can call when you are able to do so are 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. In the UK, 033-344-0065. In the US of A, 718-285-6984. And in Canada, 305-921-4619. So now I go to this bit of a clip. It's about 6 minutes long, and it speaks to the fact that it seems that we are definitely experiencing neocolonialism at its worst. Be reminded also that at the bottom of the hour we will segue into a rebroadcast of the good doctor Natalie Osborne, a rebroadcasting of a prior program that deals with the effect of alcohol on the human body.
How can President Trump possibly justify the invasion and takeover of the government of Venezuela in American national security terms?
Judge, that's a great question, and I think it's irrelevant because he's done it. I think we have to accept the fact that he's now committed the United States Armed Forces and the wealth and power of the United States to intervention in Venezuela. I think what we're learning here is that Washington, led by President Trump, is ready to use whatever means it has at its disposal, including military power, to stop the diminishment of U.S. national influence in its bid to manage the sort of decline and dissolution of the so-called post-war liberal order. That's what it all seems to be about. Remember, the rules-based order is effectively gone. And President Trump simply stated very, very categorically, we can do it again. Nobody can stop us. There's nothing with the capability that we have. I think that's where we are right now. And lots of people are saying, fine, this is great. The question is, what happens now? That's, difficult to answer, but we need to talk about that.
Is there a nexus between this invasion and takeover of the government of Venezuela and the likely coming, you've predicted this many times, Israeli-U.S. invasion of Iran?
I think it's pretty hard to, disengage one from the other. I mean, he said what he said about we can do it again. Nobody can stop us. Nobody has the capability that we have. People are inferring from that he's talking about potentially Mexico doing something of a similar nature, or some other countries in Central America. I think they believe in Washington that they have now frightened everyone in Latin America from the Rio Grande down to the Straits of Magellan. But I don't think that we've necessarily frightened them. I think they've infuriated and offended large numbers of people in that strip.
How can Marco Rubio and Pete Hegseth become the governors of Venezuela? How can the United States government run the government of another country?
Well, I thought that was marvelous when President Trump pointed out that Mrs. Machado, frankly, lacks the political strength to govern the country, which is true, by the way. I was glad to hear him say that. That's been a question from the very beginning. Remove Mrs. Machado, who steps in and takes over. The question is, who will ultimately be installed in power? Well, nobody knows. And so until that happens, presumably, Secretary of State Marco Rubio will simply govern as an American viceroy. I don't think Pete Hegseth is going to be diverted into that, because we have the war with Iran looming on the horizon. Operations in Ukraine continue. So what do? I think you turn to Marco Rubio and effectively make him an American viceroy. And if you ask me, well, on whose authority and under what sort of rule, international law, is that possible? I don't think it matters. I mean, again, we've seen demonstrated repeatedly that who cares what international law says? Who cares what the United Nations Security Council says? This president doesn't care, and neither does Congress. So if that's what they're going to do, then that's what will happen. Now, is that going to work out well? I don't know.
Here's Secretary Hegseth.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around, and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back.
What does this have to do with safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the United States?
We already dominate the Western Hemisphere. We have for decades, probably at least 200 years. So I don't think we had to demonstrate that. But this is a useful distraction in many ways. Long-term consequences for this, I think, are going to be severe.
What are your thoughts about Beijing's reaction to this?
Beijing and Moscow both understand something. There really is a strategic advantage when you take on the enemy in your home court. In other words, they're not going to challenge us in the Caribbean. They're not going to challenge us in the Western Hemisphere. So the idea that the Chinese or the Russians and their military influence or power would be squandered in some way in the defense of Venezuela is absurd. They're not going to repeat the mistake that we have made by investing heavily in Ukraine in a war against Russia that there was no chance of ever winning. So that's not going to happen. I think the Chinese will be mildly offended, but they'll turn around and say, well, there's oil elsewhere. And I think the Chinese will then increasingly make life harder for us by shedding the debt, by selling off the U.S. treasuries. And we're already, in a vulnerable position in that connection. I think that's only going to get worse.
And you just had two voices, one of a retired judge and the other of a retired general, both of the U.S., giving their analysis as to how they see the invasion of Venezuela and the fallout would most likely be. Now, without any further delay, let's get right into, as I promised you, Weekly Dose with Natalie Osborne.
You found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
At this time, it's time for a Weekly Dose. So good morning and welcome back to Weekly Dose Live. Today we're diving into an issue that affects almost every household, and I know this to be true: alcohol. Socially, it's everywhere: parties, celebration, family gatherings. But what exactly happens to your body and brain when you drink? And why does alcohol make you say or do things you'd normally not do? So joining me once again is our trusted medical expert. See, she's already chuckling. Consultant General Surgeon Dr. Natalie Osborne. Good morning, Doc. Welcome back to the studio.
Good morning. Always a pleasure. It's an important topic because we know alcohol not only just affects your liver, it affects your hormones, your judgment, cadencia,
everything,
your relationships, and even your long-term health. I hope Quint is listening with us too.
I don't think Quint indulge in those things.
No. He's a very serious gentleman.
I don't even know how a beer tastes.
Oh, that's good to hear.
That's what I like. So it's good to be back with you guys, and I think this topic is timely because you know what season we're entering in.
Party hard season, Carnivale. Don't get me, people, but it's the truth. So let's start with the basics, Doc. When someone takes a drink, what happens?
Okay. So that's a great question. What happens? The alcohol is rapidly absorbed into your system. So you swallow that alcohol, is absorbed into your stomach, right? Then it goes through your small intestines and it gets into your blood, all right? And it travels to all of your organs. So here's what happens. The liver has to work overtime to break down this alcohol. At least one drink takes about an hour for it to process throughout the body, okay? And then heavy drinking overwhelms the liver, and you know that leads to things like fatty liver, hepatitis, and eventually, if continued and a person abuses alcohol, we know of persons who have what we call liver failure as a result of cirrhosis. You've heard of that, where the liver, the tissues, the cells start dying and become scarred off, and so you have that rough, lumpy, bumpy liver, and the cells are not able to function as is. All right, so that's what ultimately happens. So then the alcohol can affect, of course, the heart. We don't think about the heart. The only thing we think about is the liver. But it increases your heart rate and increases your blood pressure. And so long-term use of alcohol, what can it leads to? Arrhythmia, like your heart is beating abnormal, and it can lead to heart failure. So we don't want that for our people. What about the stomach? We know that alcohol affects the stomach. We've heard of young persons and individuals binge drinking, and we have these drinking games and stuff. What happens? Then the lining of the stomach becomes irritated and damaged, like an alcohol-induced gastritis, is inflammation. These persons can start vomiting, of course, and sometimes they panic because they vomit up blood because of the irritation going on there to the stomach, okay? And it affects your blood sugar to persons, especially if they're diabetic. It can drop off your blood sugar significantly and lead to diabetic problems like diabetic comas, okay? So we have to be careful because alcohol does affect quite a lot.
Wow. So even moderate drinking has immediate effects.
So absolutely, we know that. Your inhibition, things like that. And we know that the more you drink, the more effect it has on your body. Because most of the times, once persons start drinking, of course, they tend not to stop at just one.
Yeah, because it tastes good. Well, according.
I don't know if it tastes that
to the
good.
drink. No, but it has to be something why they keep going, because if you start at one and you just keep going as we see some people do.
I heard it's an acquired taste.
Okay.
Because most of the time it's not I'll give you a quick little story, anecdote. I think my great uncle, this is years ago when I was a child, he came to a funeral in Keon, and he came down to visit us in the alley, and he had a beer, and I think I remember saying, "Uncle, let me taste it." And that thing tasted terrible, and I guess it was warm as well. I spit that out. I said, this is something that people actually drink, and this is not something that I have ever...
Yeah, beer is off.
Yes.
Yeah. I was wondering that, but I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure.
You were wondering what?
If you drank.
No, I'm not no. I'm going to give you all a story about me. And this is my almost end of year story, so you have a little insight about me. Very early on, I was a person who learned from others. You know, sometimes you have to learn from others' mistakes, and I see things. I remember, and this is a little insight to who I am, and I saw my parents, none of them studied, they weren't educated. And they had quite a bit of children. Together we were 8 children, right? And I said, I didn't want that for myself. So I'll give you a quick story when I decided I would never touch alcohol. So it's a Christmas season. Do you remember those bottle of wines that we call cake wines? And I'm letting myself out now. My parents were not around, and I think they went out or whatever, and I was about 13 or so. And so I took up one of those. They had it in that little cabinet that everybody had with your chinawares and stuff, and I drank about half of the bottle, right? When I was done, I threw water in it. I remember
to make it back.
Up. So it was that cake wine, and I'm so embarrassed now. And I remember feeling woozy and kind of dizzy, like, and I lay down on the sofa that was there. And I said, I don't like this feeling at all. And I said, I would never do that, because I was kind of an out-of-body experience. I'm so embarrassed now that I've said the story. And I decided I would never, ever again touch alcohol. And it has never been appealing to me. Okay. I just was wondering why everybody was interested in this, that wine. We used to call it the cake wine, that cheap bottle of wine that we had. I felt so out of sorts. I said, never me again.
I, as a young child, had an experience almost similar to yours.
Yeah.
But, I remember I got, those coconut cheese that, when a coconut cheese has a lot of coconuts and they get it, the broom. I got some of those from my great aunt because, I think I was about maybe 7 or so years old, and she had gone out, and there were some big men there, and they were drinking Hammond.
I figured it was Hammond.
And they knew I was small, so they gave me a little in a stopper cola. And I remember thinking the same thing. This is what people enjoy, because it burnt my throat.
Yeah.
And even from that little, I was staggering by the time my great aunt came home.
Oh, so
and
you get next to the broom.
Two-yard broom. I remember those broomsticks. You would get hit with those things.
I remember thinking, not me ever again.
Yes, that was my experience. So yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about the immediate effects. So alcohol and brain. So it messes with your memory, your judgment, all of those things. Okay. So most of the stories we hear about alcohol involve poor decision, fights. Oh my gosh, I see them constantly at the ferry terminal. Yes, you can get me because y'all put them out there for me to see. Accidents, texting someone. Why shouldn't? Why?
Well, of course, we know that alcohol depresses the frontal lobe, and that is one very important area. That area is like the CEO of your brain. So it's responsible for judgment, decision-making, cortensia, self-control, planning, problem solving. And so if the CEO is not functioning well, how is the organization going to be executed well and stuff? So decision making is important. And so this is why we have to, because then our judgment, and we think that nothing is wrong, and we take risks that we wouldn't normally make. All right, so you want to think of that. It's very important. Decision making. You do something or you go somewhere where you normally wouldn't, and hence the end result. I saw this story, and I hate to bring up these things. Most women will love these crime shows. I remember this young lady, they were telling us a TV crime show I was looking at, and ultimately the young lady lost her life. What happened? She went out partying with her friends, and of course everybody thinks that you must drink to have a good time, and she was so intoxicated she came home staggering, and there was a security guard in her building, so you had to be buzzed in and whatever. He was working in the building, and when he saw that she was inebriated and she lacked judgment and she was staggering, he acted as if he was about to help her, took her to her room, he was watching her, things like that. Ultimately, he was the one who caused her demise, because she was inhibited, and he thought to take advantage of her, and one thing led to another while trying to sexually abuse her, and he wondered what he's going to do afterwards. And some of these decisions are made in the spur of the moment. And I always said he is guilty, of course, because he should not have harmed that girl. But if she wasn't inebriated at that point, she would have been in a different position. So the choices that we make when we consume alcohol can alter our life significantly.
Oh boy. So why is it people drink and think, I'm fine to drive, when clearly they are not?
Because alcohol tricks you into thinking that you're okay. Your reaction time changes, your judgment, but you get so quote-unquote relaxed, and you're high on this kind of new exuberance and stuff, and you think that you're invincible. But at that time, you can be severely impaired.
Let's talk about inhibitions. Why does alcohol make people bolder, louder, or more emotional? And I see this all the time.
Yes. There's a center in the brain that's called the amygdala and the limbic system. It's found in the hippocampus. These are big words. Anyhow, these areas help to regulate emotions and our impulses. So what happens when we consume lots of alcohol? It lowers social inhibition. You know that, Cartensia. All of a sudden, the shy person is now talking and out there and laughing and smiling a little bit more than they normally would. It increases your confidence, or this give you this false sense of confidence. You're emboldened. So you're at a bar and you're with your girls and you're laughing and talking, and they dare you to go up and speak to this guy, and of course you feel that you can do that. And your emotions become exaggerated. If you're laughing, you laugh even louder. If you're emotional, if you're crying, you cry even louder. And everything is exaggerated, and you start to overshare things about your life that you wouldn't normally do. And so it increases risky behavior. It impairs impulse control. That is why people start all these fights at bars. For little things, you're drinking too much, somebody brushes past you, and you say they touch you too roughly, and it creates this atmosphere. And it removes this, what we call, filter between your thoughts and actions. Like you have no filter. These persons start talking out of turn. Like a person will say, why do I become so angry when I'm drinking? But when you're sober, you can control some of your emotions. But because of the alcohol, you become so inhibited, and some of your true, quote-unquote, nature, and unmask some of the qualities that a person may have.
Okay. You have a caller.
Okay, caller, go ahead. You're live on Weekly Dose.
Good morning to everybody, and greetings once more in Jesus Christ's name.
Good morning.
Now, yes, people have to be very careful about the use of alcohol, because not only does it result in health issues, but you also have to remember the accidents it causes on the roads and that sort of stuff. The people do things and end up getting arrested by it and all those sort of stuff. So, yes, people have to be very careful about the alcoholic intake, and people should know their limits and stay within the limits of the alcoholic consumption. Secondly, with a light-hearted moment, I have heard the doctor experience with her alcohol with her alcohol account. Let me put it, account. I have heard Quint with his as well, but there's another person whose experience is missing, and I wonder if she would be able to share a little with us as well.
I hope Greg is looking to see. I'm shaking my head. No.
Well, Greg, do you have an experience yourself? Have you ever?
Many.
Okay.
Many.
That is surprising, knowing that you're Christian.
Yeah, man. I am one of those who do not believe that drinking alcohol is a sin. But rather the drunkenness is sinful. I do drink my alcoholic beverages. But I would like to ask the doctor an interesting question, though. That's a little light-hearted question. You say you don't drink alcohol. What about like eating cake and so? Do you do that?
Once in a while, you eat fruit cake.
Yeah, but
the cake is not over the top.
I would eat that from time to time. You know, that's a cultural thing in the season too. You may have a slice of fruit cake. Yeah, but I'm not a
rum cake.
Yes, yeah, but I don't like it when it's heavily laden with alcohol. You can smell it. You can smell it quite well.
Leave that cake over there.
Yeah.
Same with me. Yeah.
All right, Greg.
Okay, Greg.
I know that will make sense. So yeah, Quint, I do drink alcoholic beverages.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right. All the best to you. Thanks for listening always.
All right, so we will continue.
We have another caller.
Okay, caller, go ahead. You're live on Weekly Dose.
Good day.
Good day.
I was just wondering, we've seen articles on the benefits of things like having a glass of red wine, you know. So I'm wondering, when is it okay to imbibe alcohol? Is one beer on a Friday afternoon okay, but 2 or 3 isn't? Right? And what exactly does excessive alcohol drinking do. I mean, we've heard so many instances where it leads to liver damage. Is that the usual case, or there are other things involved that alcohol does to the body that the body cannot take? And lastly, as an aside, doctor, what do you have against eating chicken? You might not recall, but...
And that's it?
Okay, let's...
Yes, that's it.
All right, caller, thank you.
All right, we were talking about if I don't have the listener just got it on. We were talking about what some of the things that excessive alcohol does. We spoke about its effects on the brain. We spoke about decreasing inhibitions, all the things that can happen, and your judgment changing. Persons can get into fights. Persons can get involved in things that you normally wouldn't do. And the domestic violences and all these events occur usually associated with alcohol. We talk about its damage on its liver, of course, that is well documented, the liver cirrhosis. Persons have a terrible death under those conditions of having a failed liver. And that can be the end stage of persons who consume quite a lot of alcohol over a long period of time. We spoke about the effects on organs like the heart, leading to the brain. You can increase your risk of having strokes as well too. It increases your risk of having heart abnormalities in terms of how the heart muscle functions, leading to heart failure. We talk about the damages that it causes to organs like your stomach. Persons, it is increasingly important, and it creates a lot of risk factors associated with different cancers. We talk about cancer of the throat, cancers of the mouth. We talk about cancers. Liver cancer is a risk factor, pancreatic cancer. So alcohol has a lot of effects as well too. All right?
All right. So what are some of the dangers people may not think about?
We know that accidents, 60% of accidents that are fatal, crashes and stuff, involve some level of alcohol. I think one of the previous caller mentioned that. Falls and injuries. We know that how it affects the brain and your balance. Persons, you fall down more. We see patients all the time come to emergency room. They've fallen down after they've consumed quite a bit of alcohol. They have a laceration, cuts open their head. We have to do CT scan to make sure that they don't have a brain bleed, things like that. They get into fights. Some of the worst traumatic injuries, persons start chopping on each other with machetes and knives and stuff. It involves some sort of alcohol uses. So we know that violence and domestic disputes increase when alcohol is involved. There's heightened emotions and lowered control. Unsafe sex decisions. Most we know about, Quint, you should know this, in St. Kitts, most of the babies we talk about born in September, you know that story because of the carnival period. So, unsafe sexual decision, that can lead to pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies, unplanned pregnancies, and sexually transmitted infections, because normally if you're sound of mind, you wouldn't get involved with some of these things. Persons are coming with what we call this blackout, because they've consumed so much alcohol, so they do not remember what happened the day before, the night before. Hence, that increases a young woman's risk of being assaulted. We spoke about the case that I saw, the crime story, that the young lady lost her life as a result of having associated alcohol on board. So now you're out and you're drinking, and then you're abused sexually, and the next day you're unaware of what happened. You can't give a clear story to the authorities, and you're unsure. So we have to be very careful. And of course, we can have alcohol poisoning because of the binge drinking, and of course, we know all of the problems that come with that.
Okay, so things can go wrong very quickly.
We know they can go extremely wrong. Okay, one night of drinking heavily, Quint, can change a person's life forever. You can lose your life, you can kill someone in a motor vehicle accident, and of course you can become pregnant, things like that, or have become HIV positive because you made such a decision that you would not have normally done without the excess alcohol on board.
Okay, we know that what does long-term heavy drinking lead to?
Chronic liver disease, we've mentioned that. Pancreatitis, we know that structure, that organ that we have there deep in our tummy, that's called the pancreas. It's responsible for releasing a lot of these hormones. One of the most common one is insulin to regulate our blood sugar. You can have destruction to the pancreas and the pancreatic cells, leading to chronic pancreatitis, things like diabetes, leading to failure of the pancreas. And we all need our pancreas, of course, chronic pancreatic pain, high blood pressure. We don't want that. Strokes, we don't want that. Our immune system is weakened because if we abuse alcohol over time, of course, we know that. We spoke about our mental health issues. It worsens anxiety and your depression. Sexual dysfunction. Of course, you think that it gives you confidence, so you go over and talk to the girl, but then when you get going, or you need to get going, you're having difficulty having an erection because of the alcohol consumption. Relationships break down because of alcohol, domestic abuse, we know that. Financial stress. You start making poor decisions. You go to the that casino, and you start making rash decisions, and you bet more than you can, and then you have these problems. And so it is not just a social drink. In excess, it's a toxin to the body. So we want to make sure we remember that. And the cancers that more and more we're realizing has association with alcohol. Breast cancer, you wouldn't think about that. And we know we have an increase of breast cancer, colon cancer as well too.
Alcohol. Wow.
Stomach cancer, esophageal cancer. It's almost always, that food pipe, once you have that, is almost always associated with persons who have consumed large amount of alcohol.
Wow. Well, we just had a caller that asks, but people always ask, how much is safe?
Yes, I know the caller was talking, and I purposefully left that home because I know we were going to get to this. So how much is really safe? The guideline can vary, but in general, they recommend for a woman no more than one drink per day, and men no more than 2 drinks per day. They speak about some benefits of like having a glass of red wine. But what is there's something in the wine that comes from the grape that I think we call resveratrol. You could just have your grapes. I love grapes. Have your grapes too. So ultimately, they speak about the benefits. That's why I said there are different studies out there, and some may contradict each other. But if you have a healthy lifestyle with your exercise, eating well, a balanced diet, you really don't need a glass of wine. But remember too, ultimately, some of these are big market. Not some of these, all of these. What we call spirits and wines and alcohol. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. And of course, studies can speak and push you in a favorable manner, a favorable light. And man, a conversation with a patient yesterday, and I'm going to get into trouble, but this is the end of the year. Let me speak it. He worked at the brewery for years. And we had a good conversation, and I challenged him. I said, the brewery, of course, make millions of dollars selling these spirits, selling these drinks, social events and stuff. And I said, I never really hear them supporting the healthcare system, giving donations. And because of these consumptions, we have so many persons coming into the healthcare system with end results of alcohol abuse. But it seems so separated at the end of the day when we have this end problem, but we celebrate so much of these events and these companies and these, and the healthcare system. I don't know of our healthcare system getting support when we need it financially. Because the end result of having to care for these persons who would have consumed and abused these alcoholic beverages. I put that out there, somebody would not like that comment.
But it's the truth, because, and it's funny that things that are not good for us, we abuse, like the smoking, the drinking, etc., etc. And then we want to be saved once we end up in the problems, right?
And so that's where the healthcare comes in on the back end, but there seem to be no connection, no direct link, because then that part is long gone, or quite removed from now the end care, and we're running back and forth trying to get the person health back up and giving them the necessary support.
Oh boy. Yeah,
so we have to challenge each other.
Yeah, certainly we have to. But let's look at drinking safely. Are there any tips for that?
Yes, because persons want to say that we're haters. We're not really hating. Quit no I no contentia. We're just giving you the facts. And it's important. If you're going to have alcoholic beverages, of course, there's certain tips, because especially we come into this Christmas season and people say they want to let loose and relax. Eat before drinking. Try not to eat on an empty stomach, because you want to ensure that the alcohol that you consume, the food is like a buffer and it doesn't get into your bloodstream so quickly and so creates those symptoms. Alternate with water. So if you have a glass of wine, then you have a glass of water, or you have a whiskey or whatever, then you have a glass of water. So try to make sure and set a limit before you go out. I'm only going to buy 2 drinks. That's my limit for tonight. And you could even just carry that money that is responsible for that. So each drink, I don't know, Quint, it costs $15. You have $30, and that's your drink money. So that kind of limits you as well, too. And do not have these drinking games. Oh, truth or dare, drink a shot if you don't want to. Those things are not necessary at all. All right? And know your triggers. So if you know that you're going into a situation where persons are going to be, I don't know, this dance in the middle of the night, late night, and persons, you want to limit the amount of alcohol, because you're going to put yourself into vulnerable situations, and you don't want to be isolated in a place and your inhibitions are limited. You can get hurt or even worse. So we want to make sure, and do not mix your alcohol with energy drinks and sedatives. We love to persons, and we're seeing that more and more, and it's being promoted on TV and in shows that you drop something and you get this high, or you smoke something and you consume alcohol. That's going to worsen, and it has no benefit at all. All right? And never drink and drive. Never, never, never. If you're planning in advance to go out with your friends, of course you want that person who's going to be the designated driver. And so take me with you. So I'm not going to drink, so I'll make sure I'll get you home safely. So you need a cartensia in the group as well too. She's not going to drink, so that person is a designated driver. Because you think that you're fine, but then you are not. Your reaction time is limited, of course. And you take risks, you press on the pedal because you think it's fun and everybody's laughing. And then you get into a massive accident that can lead to loss of lives. And we do not want that. Exactly.
So, oh my gosh, the topic, we are already at the end of it. But since Greg wanted a story, there's this famous drink. I don't even want to call the name, but someone gave it to me. They know I like coffee. But I did not. And it says non-alcoholic on it, but it had in the other stuff that I didn't see the insignia on the side of the bottle. Listen, I was mashed up. Thank God I had a group of girlfriends. I was talking to them. But when I was looking at the phone, Doc, and Quint, at one time the words are big, next time the words are small. And then I'm on the bed and I feel like the bed's taking me in like suction. And this is like maybe 3 years ago. And then I'm up again. And then one time I'm seeing orange and next time I'm seeing clear. That was the worst.
So you were out when that happened?
No, home.
So somebody gave you
this at home.
Yeah,
So I had it in the fridge. I said, let me drink some. And then they say, oh, you have to consume the rest. I said, since it's coffee, I'm going to consume the entire
bottle. But it had
bottle.
alcohol in it?
No, non-alcoholic. The high grade weed.
Oh.
So that thing messed me up. I didn't see the insignia on the corner. It's a famous drink around these parts, but I won't call any name. But yeah, that messed me up. I threw up immensely. I was telling my husband. He said when he came in the door, he saw me like I was going to fall. I didn't know all of that. I had my head on an ice pack. I did all kind of things that day. I was spraying air freshener like to stay conscious and all of that, but it didn't work. So I and
the thing about it, this is so important that you know what you're drinking. We also want to emphasize when you go out, don't put down your drink anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Make sure you keep your drink with you all times. If you, as a women, especially if you go to the restroom and your drink is left there, when you come back, you need to order a fresh drink.
Exactly.
Let no one order your drink that you didn't see the bartender pour directly, and ensure that you know what your drink is, and have trusted people around. Because if you have trusted person around, in case you become intoxicated, you know that you have one or
they
two
can take
friends
you
who can
home.
take you home safely. But do not do this in new groups, in the persons that you're just meeting, because do not know the character of these individuals.
No, I was home with my experience, so thank God for that. But
So
no.
we have to be very, very, very careful in our decision making, because ultimately when we lose that sense of self and that decision making, so your reaction time, your judgment, all of these things that are affected by the consumption of alcohol, it leads to death, it leads to being sexually violated, sexually transmitted infection, unwanted pregnancy, and a whole source of other complications. So we are emphasizing this in this period of the year because we know everybody's going to be out celebrating.
It's that time.
We want people to make wise decisions. That is always our goal, to educate, because we don't want persons coming up. I remember some years ago, you're probably too young to remember Cuttings here. This is years ago. Dr. Wilkinson, when he was a medical chief of staff, he called downtown and told them to end the carnival day. And they did. Why? Because persons were consuming so much alcohol. We had lots of stab wounds coming to the emergency rooms, persons hitting each other with bottles and creating just chaos. If you know you're there to have healthy, good fun, you have to expect that somebody's going to touch on you, you're going to have these little things. But once you consume so much alcohol, your judgment then and everything is heightened that we speak about. And I remember he called there and said, listen, let's wrap up this dance, whatever it was that morning, because we were having so many persons coming to the hospital with injuries. So we do not want that for people. We want them to have a healthy and good carnival season and to be safe.
Yes, indeed. So thank you, Doc. It's always a pleasure having you in and you educating us on the variant topics. So
the gentleman asked about chicken eating. I think that was that.
Oh yeah, I have it. What do you have against eating chicken?
Me personally don't, because I chose to live a lifestyle that's more accordance with a vegetarian lifestyle. I eat fish. They're healthy. Chicken, of course, the healthiest chicken we know is the chicken breast. You want to eat that. You want to make sure you prepare it without a lot of oil and stuff, but you can eat that because we know we need protein, especially once we get above the age of 35. We lose at least 1% of our muscle mass as we get older, so we need lots of protein. If chicken is what you like, prepare it well, make sure that it's cooked properly so it's not infected with any salmonella, it's not left out. These are things we encourage, but I don't discourage anyone from eating chicken if they choose to, because it is a source of protein and not everybody can access things like fish. So I wanted to make sure I did not ignore that individual's question.
Okay, so caller, enjoy your chicken.
Yes.
Thanks, Doc.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
And the time in the studio is approximately 6 minutes moving away from the 9 o'clock hour. And there you had the Surgeon Doctor Natalie Osborne, always eloquent, and as Hortensia said, always enlightening us, teaching us about things that are important in our everyday lives and existence. So, as I stated before, that was a rebroadcast of a prior program, and I thought it was rather fitting because we recently had our carnival, so that was just before the carnival, and I think it is fitting to play it just after, because again we had our carnival session and operations curtailed and stopped because of stabbing. And even though we don't know what caused the stabbing, whether it was alcohol-induced or just tempers flaring, well, it is still a fitting program to replay. And for the rest of the month, at least, we'll be playing rebroadcast because the doctor is otherwise occupied. So don't feel that the doctor has abdicated or absconded or left us. No, she is otherwise occupied and will be back when she can. In the meantime and in between time, let's take a bit of a commercial break and I'll be right back.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Come, build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers. We don't just sell materials, we help you build your dreams. Whether it's a new home, a renovation, or DIY project, we're here to make it happen. That's why we say, build with us. From foundation to finish, come to our stores where we have the best in building materials, hardware, tools, paints, expert advice, and more. Whatever you need, you can count on us. So if you're ready to get started, build with us. With Hostels Building and Nevis Centers, you're not just building a structure, you're building a future. Let us help you create something amazing. Dream with us, plan with us, grow with us, build with us. Come build with us at Hostels Building and Nevis Centers today. Build with us at Hosfords.
Campari, red passion, embrace the mix.
Campari, red passion, full action, this is red passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari, red passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari, red passion, embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
This Christmas, add postpaid for a festive win-win. We're gifting you a 50-inch smart TV or a $400 Amazon gift card. When you add a Flow postpaid mobile plan to your home internet, you can celebrate the most wonderful time of the year with a big screen or big shopping. Let us upsize your TV or clear your Amazon cart. Either way, you come out on top. Add postpaid to internet today for your festive win-win. Visit discoverflow.co for more info. Terms and conditions apply.
And I'm back with you. The time 10 minutes moving away from the 9 o'clock hour, and I realize my phone lines have not locked into accepting your calls. I for the life of me, I can't understand this phone thing, you know. Like I said, I restarted it some time ago, and sometimes it does. I can see the phone lighting up quickly, and then other time it just is prolonged. So I don't know. Suffice it to say, those are circumstances beyond my control. I can only do what I can do, and the rest is up to whatever. Okay? So let me see if I can again get back to my prior discussion before, when I played a clip as it relates to this ongoing present saga in the region. I recently saw a clip relating to this court appearance by Maduro and his wife, and I was a bit concerned because, as the reporter stated, the wife had some scars around her face, her eyes and face swollen, and he said she suffered some back injury and that kind of stuff. And I did hear another individual on another show saying things like, well, you know, we like to get them apart and we can see if we can soften them up and get one to rat on the other. And I'm wondering if, you know, they're doing that to the wife, because when it comes to the United States, I don't put anything past them. I have no, unlike perhaps a lot of you who believe the United States is some kind of utopia, I do not. I feel, especially for people who are not of a complete Caucasian persuasion, the United States, as we have been seeing recently, is not a very nice place to be. And when you look and you hear some of the statements being made, and then you go further back and you look at the fact that they came into our proximity and just started blowing up boats, killing people with impunity, no chance of a court trial, no chance of you saying whether you're guilty or not guilty, just killing people, murdering people, really. I mean, I don't know. I am concerned as to what they might be doing to Maduro and his wife. When you are in the prison system in the United States of America, your life is at risk. Unfortunately, sadly so, but history bears that out, especially when they don't really like you and they might want to find ways of just eliminating you. I feel, and this is my opinion, I feel that what Trump and the Trump administration has done is what they really wanted to do. They just wanted to get Maduro out of the way because his stance has been adamant that he's not going to give up the valuables of Venezuela without getting some kind of return in terms of, let's do a fair trade, let's do a bartering system. I have this, you want this, you pay me that, I give you that, you know, and we both benefit. But no, what the U.S. wants, and when I say the U.S., I incorporate the Congress and the Democrats and the Republicans. All of them, in my opinion, are the same until they prove otherwise. Because just to come and talk like the United Nations is of no consequence to me. You know, as the old saying goes, talk is cheap. So I feel that they have accomplished what they wanted, get Maduro out. It is likely that whoever is in would be more mild and will be more respondent to their desires and their need. When you listen to Marco Rubio saying things like, well, you know, we have an embargo on their oil, and they're not going to be able to produce any oil until they acquiesce to what we want, and you're thinking to yourself, this is supposed to be the bastion of democracy, and what does democracy mean, or what should it really mean, you know? So we're all in a bit of a quandary, and for those of you who felt that we were living in a perfect, well, not perfect, but a close to perfect world in this so-called democratic scheme, well, not to say that I adhere to or lean towards socialism or being a socialist, but I'm just saying if you profess something, then let that something that you profess live up to what it states. And you state that democracy is the freedom of individuals to have a choice, as long as they don't go outside of the law. But what is the law? And I've often said the legal system across the globe, whether here in the St. Kitts and Nevis and around the globe, and I know the legal luminaries won't like hear me saying it. I'm not saying that you don't try to adhere to some legal laws and moral standards, but for the whole, when it comes right down to it, the legal system has been illegal, has been running on illegality. And if you don't believe that, just check what happens when the rich find themselves in a bit of a quandary, and you see how the legal system and the justice, the so-called justice system that is supposed to be fair and balanced, how it morphs and sways and become a chameleon so that it can accommodate those who have wealth. So this clip that I'm going to play for you falls into that vein because it speaks to the law of power has the right to take what it wants. Again, let me repeat that to you. The law of power has the right to take what it wants.
And I want to go now to Senator Ruben Gallego, Democrat of Arizona, a member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, who is joining us now. You have said already you believe there is no justification for the United States to be at war with Venezuela. So a couple of questions for you, sir. Do you believe that the U.S. is currently at war with Venezuela?
The one thing I know is when people are shooting and shooting back, that is war, right? And that's what exactly has occurred here. Number two, the nature of this is it's all illegal. What we heard so far, there are three different reasons why we went after this man. And now they're saying they were going to occupy a foreign country, we're going to run it from the United States, and that we're going to steal their oil. In what world did this administration get any of that permission ever for them to do that. Did not come from the United States citizens, did not come from Congress. Therefore, it is illegal. Let us be clear. This is a war of choice. We're lucky it has gone as well as it has so far. The fact is, we violated the Constitution of the United States. We are weaker as a country when we start violating the Constitution of the United States for these illegal wars, and we're not going to be better off in the future.
So just to be clear, you don't buy the argument that the Trump administration, that the president himself has made as justification for this, which is that it's in the best national security interest of the United States, they say, to put a stop to the drug trafficking that they say Maduro has undertaken.
That message has changed so many times. Now it's oil. Now it's that we're going to control the government. Now it's that, yes, maybe it's drugs. But also just about 3 weeks ago, you also pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was also a convicted drug dealer. So we all know this is BS. This is a war of occupation. This has been building up for a while. There's no reason why you have F-35s involved in a war. There's no reason why you have so many Navy ships involved in a war if you're just doing a police action. All this is one more excuse for us to either occupy Venezuela, take their oil, and more importantly, you're violating the Constitution of the United States. These guys have no clue what they're doing. They have no clue. They can't tell us who's in charge of Venezuela right now. They can't tell us what the end goal of this is. But now we are involved in this war. 2 weeks ago, where Marco Rubio said, like, we're not actually here for regime change. We're just focusing on stopping the drug cartels. Clearly a lie. So what are they going to do is going to lie to us again. This is why I'm going to force the vote, actually, in the House and the Senate, to make sure, on the House side at least, to make sure that we understand the full scope of this, that we're going to deny potentially their war powers resolution for them to continue doing this, and to actually make it clear that the American public does not want us to be the world cop anymore.
You talk about outcomes, Senator, and where we stand now. Delcy Rodriguez, the Venezuelan vice president, the president has said she was sworn in as president. She has now said in the last couple of hours that Nicolas Maduro is the president of Venezuela. Who should be in charge right now in Venezuela?
That's not for us to decide. The most important thing is for us to decide who should be at war at all. And this is the problem. This administration has zero clue what they're doing. They're just basically following a really dumb man into a very dumb war, potentially, and that creates very dumb outcomes. I say this because it's very personal to me. I was involved in a very dumb, illegal war where I lost a lot of men and like best friends of mine, and this is exactly what's happening at the same time. We need to stop where we are right now. We need to not go into these expeditionary wars, and certainly we're not here to occupy another country. The American public does not want that, and I'm certainly not going to vote for that.
And you're referencing, of course, your deployment to Iraq as a Marine there. When you talk about this being personal to you, I also wonder at this moment, Senator, as somebody who was raised by your mother who is from Colombia, the president issuing a warning, it sounded like, to other leaders in the region, to Colombia, to Mexico, it sounded like. We talked to our correspondent on the ground in Cuba as well.
And there you had it. And like I said, the law of power being able to just do what it wants, take what it wants. And if you want a clear example, just look at what they did to Haiti. And when I say they, I mean the very same United States of America. So here's a congressman who's saying, oh, this is a madman, he's, but we had prior presidents on different occasions who had the get-go or the goodwill or the accommodation or the yes vote of Congress and did some very, very heinous things to other people. Like, for instance, you go into Haiti, the United States went into Haiti and tore up Haiti's constitution and stole Haiti's wealth, put it in their coffers, and to this day has never returned it. The United States of America, in tearing up Haiti's constitution that said no foreign individual had the right to own land in Haiti, that was one of the first things they tore up and changed. That you could just go and foreign entities could just go and get the spoils of Haiti, including the land. So when we see this happening, this is nothing new. Like I said, and let me say here, the statements I make are my statements and how I see things. They're not the statements of WinFM 98.9 They're my statements. They're how I see things. And these are things that I didn't just pull out of the air. These are things that if you go into history, you see them. They're there. I'm not making up stories. I'm not defaming or maligning anyone's character. I'm not besmirching anyone. They're facts in history. And if it is that in this proximity there's Haiti and you can't bring Haiti to a semblance of normalcy after all these years, you're going to be able to do that in controlling Venezuela? I mean, seriously now. So it's not just a matter of whether you can. The thing is a matter of whether you will. And you won't. And the reason why you won't try to bring stability is because stability means that you can't do as you like. When you bring chaos, then it gives you the right to insert yourself and say you're bringing peace and tranquility or bringing back a normalcy, and the normalcy goes for years and years and decades. And how long has Haiti been in this state? Do the math. How long has Haiti been in this state, and the rest of the world, the entire globe says, we want peace and tranquility and we want the best for the Haitian people, and what? I'm going to take a bit of a commercial break and I'll be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Campari. Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink, Campari Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us. What are you doing? She said, drink a root boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, she said, drink a root boy, I will do the work. You don't have to wind up yourself. You don't have to wind up yourself. Oh, cause when we out and we active, living we life. So when we drink, when we drinking. Root boy. So when we drink, when we drinking. Root boy. Oh, Miss Lady, anyway you see we are we building up our vibes. So when we drink, when we drinking. Root boy. So when we drink, when we drinking. Root boy. Why?
And back with you. The time 9:28, and I'm forced to continue speaking. I'm forced to play my clips because the phone line, which I have been checking continuously off and on, has not chipped in yet. So I don't know. Just suffice it to say, I'm always prepared when I get here, so I have clips that I will play to fill in the time, but I would prefer that I am able to have a conversation with those out there who wish to, have a conversation. So let me see now. I have another clip, and I'm going to play for you some of the responses that have been coming from some of the young people in the United States of America and how they see things. And this is why I made my earlier statement in terms of potential politicians and whether you're a good politician, you're perceived as a good politician, and the fact that good politicians are not necessarily good people. Being a good politician doesn't necessarily mean that you govern appropriately. It just simply seems to mean in the past, have meant in the past, that you're a good twister of things. You're good at turning things in a way that benefits whatever it is that your agenda is, whether it's your party agenda, your personal agenda, or such. So we want, and the world has been salivating for a change in the politics and politicking. And the young people are saying they want to see a trend where in the future when you say those are the signs of a good politician, you're saying those are the signs of an individual who knows, or individuals who know they have a job to do that enhances and advances and betters the conditions of the people they are supposed to serve, as opposed to being a good politician, meaning, man, you're good at hedging, you're good at changing the topic, you're good at repeating yourself over and over and saying basically nothing. No, we want good politicians to mean good governance.
Why are protesters so opposed to the operation, which of course the president is calling a huge success?
A lot of people out here are frustrated because they say no matter what type of a leader Venezuela had, the U.S. should not have enacted violence. They should have not dropped bombs. They should have not captured their leader. I'm going to show you some of the crowd here. They are chanting U.S. out of Venezuela. There are Venezuelan flags. Lots of signs. There are drums here.
I feel like I wake up in this country and I don't know whose blood will be on my hands next. I don't know what country will have bombed next, needlessly, just all of the bloodshed. It's completely unnecessary.
I think it's completely disgraceful. Imagine if a U.S. president was kidnapped by another country, what would the reaction be, right? Like, it's absolutely despicable. I think at the end of the day, it's not a question of Maduro or Trump or the Democrats or Corina Machado ruling over the Venezuelan people. It's the Venezuelan people who are the only ones who have the right to say how they are ruled.
All Trump has done is create more chaos, and he's also united Americans against him yet again. Democrats are speaking out, and I need to make this really clear. It's not just left-wing Democrats that are speaking out. Yes, you might assume stereotypically, oh, Bernie, Mamdani, AOC, they've all come out and have been quite critical of Donald Trump's move. But you also see relative moderates, people that want to run for president and so therefore are probably going to want to be seen as somewhat nearing the center. People like Ruben Gallego, who I do think he is going to run for president. I don't know if he'll win the primaries, but I give at least a 90% chance that he's going to end up running for president. He's been out against it. Pat Ryan, he's a veteran. He's a swing state Democrat, swing district Democrat in New York. He's come out and he said, it's all about the oil. It's not about democracy. It's not about law. It's not about justice. It's about the oil. People notice this, and you're seeing Americans protest. Because here's the thing, you can have multiple positions. You can not be a fan of Maduro, but recognize that this was still a violation of basic law, of basic justice, of international order, and that it doesn't actually solve anything in Venezuela, and it may create a worse situation. One, because the people that come after Maduro, if they're Trump stooges, could be much worse than him. And also, this might lead to a civil war in Venezuela. Because Trump says we're going to run the country, but his people are not in charge. They sent like a small military team. They did not take over the country. So Donald Trump has united opposition against him, and in Venezuela, he has not even achieved his dream of an objective.
Yeah, and I would advise you, if you can, to go on YouTube and search for a clip. I don't know exactly the name, but I think if you type in Trump, let me think here. Trump Yeah, I think if you type in Trump makes bold statements to reporters on Air Force One, you should see something that is very interesting. Again, let me repeat. Because I think that is what I did, but I'm not too sure. If you type in Trump makes bold statements to reporters on Air Force One, you're going to see something very interesting. You're going to see Trump and two other male individuals on Air Force One, and a number of reporters asking, starting with Trump, a lot of questions, and then eventually the other two male individuals chiming in. Now, the reason why that is interesting is because when you listen to that interview, that bit of a fiasco, you realize this has, as we've always been saying, and as I'm sure a lot of you have already surmised, this was never about drugs in the Caribbean. This was about oil. This was about oil and the mineral wealth of Venezuela and controlling such. Now, when you listen to Trump and he speaks about controlling places like Iceland and so forth, are you hearing any rhetoric about drugs being smuggled into the U.S. from Iceland? No. All he says is, well, we need to get Iceland because it is good for our national security. That is what he says. So the ball and the game changes depending on who he's dealing with and what he wants. But if you listen to that interview, I mean, you ask yourself, is this the leader of the most powerful nation on the planet? Is this the leader of the most democratic and supposedly humanitarian country, nation on the planet? Or is this some schizophrenic individual? Because the way he rants, and there's this individual who's next to him, I think he's some sort of a senator or whatever, and the way you see their heads nodding in unison and their grins of glee and the statements he makes, and then the one next to him about oil and the wealth, and you see the clear picture of what is happening in the world and what has been happening for hundreds of years. Go back to Sir Hawkins Drake and all of those who were pirates in the Caribbean and see how the wealth was garnered to build up Europe and the British Empire. And we're seeing it today. Who would have thought? I mean, come on, even I myself if you had said to me, Quint, you're going to see in your lifetime a blatant expression and disregard for human rights and wantonly showing that power takes what it wants, I would have said no, not so blatantly. I can understand a subtle movement in that vein, but not so blatantly. But that is what we're seeing. A blatant, unrepentant, unremorseful move and expression of wantonly taking other people's stuff. And if you think back, you remember there was some time ago when Trump was cursing the kind of oil that Venezuela had. We don't want that oil. It's mud. It's useless. But now you hear him salivating about how these oil refineries are going to be making money, and then occasionally when they remember that the objective is supposed to be, at least from their perspective, the objective is supposed to be saving the Venezuelan people, then you hear them say, well, you know, the Venezuelan people are going to profit immensely from this. But then the most of the rant and the raving is about what we will get, the wealth that the U.S. will get, and that kind of stuff, and so on and so forth. But here's one of the things I want you to remember and be cognizant of when you listen to that clip, his rant on who's next. I mean, boldly and gleefully expressing just off the top of his head, willy-nilly, this one is next, and that one is next, and this is what we're going to do, and if they don't do this, we're going to... So I'm going to play now for you a clip that speaks to the question of who is really next.
We have some big news right now. Marco Rubio has confirmed that the next target for United States regime change is Cuba. The Cuban government will likely be the target of the American government to remove the head of Cuba, the Castro regime, to conduct regime change in Cuba like we have in Venezuela with Nicolas Maduro. At the same time, Rubio is actively distancing himself from a pardon issued by Donald Trump concerning drug trafficking. The former president of Honduras was pardoned just as he was beginning to serve a 45-year sentence for trafficking large amounts of cocaine and other drugs into the United States of America. This is a critical update because the administration is double turning itself at every turn. Let's just jump right into it. Marco Rubio was asked point blank what authority that the United States had to conduct not just the strikes, but also to continue the occupation of Venezuela for an indefinite period of time to, quote, run Venezuela. I want you to hear what he had to say.
President Trump was pretty clear. He said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
First of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains. That leverage is ongoing. And we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful that it does. Positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah, is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco-trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to going through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them to have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt individuals and stolen by, pirates all over the world. That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
As you can see, he doesn't actually say what legal authority there is, and he's pressed on this. Take a listen.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
So is the United States running Venezuela right now?
Well, I've explained once again, I'll do it one more time. What we are running is the direction that this is going to moving forward. We have leverage. This leverage we are using and we intend to use. We started using already. You can see where they are running out of storage capacity.
So they're not running Venezuela, or are they running Venezuela? Doesn't really make any sense.
In a few weeks, they're going to have to start pumping oil unless they make changes. And that leverage that we have with the armada of boats that are currently positioned allow us to seize any sanctioned boats coming into or out of Venezuela, loaded with oil or on its way in to pick up oil, and we can pick and choose which ones we go after. We have court orders for each one. That will continue to be in place.
By the way, court orders do not supersede international law. For those who are wondering, international law is the law by which countries have to follow when they're conducting seizures of boats, for example, on the high seas. There's specific laws that govern what the United States can and can't be doing in these situations. Court orders alone often are not enough. But I will say this, Marco Rubio is setting his sights on another country very quickly, the country of Cuba.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary?
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
so is that a yes?
Cuba. I think they're in a lot of trouble, yes. I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire, internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans. One of the untold stories here is how, in essence, you talk about colonization, because I think you said Delcy Rodriguez mentioned that. The ones who have sort of colonized, at least inside the regime, are Cubans. It was Cubans that guarded Maduro. He was not guarded by Venezuelan bodyguards. He had Cuban bodyguards. In terms of their internal intelligence, who spies on who inside to make sure there are no traitors, those are all Cubans.
It's making clear that Cuba is likely next in this regime change effort by the United States of America. He was also asked about kind of the hypocrisy that we're seeing here. The Trump administration, just in the past couple months, pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted of the facilitation of drug trafficking tons of cocaine into the United States of America. He was convicted by a jury of his peers in the United States of America, sentenced to 45 years in federal prison, was pardoned by the president. And Marco Rubio was asked about this, and he tried his hardest to distance himself from that pardon. Take a listen.
Mr. Secretary, a month ago, President Trump pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was just starting a 45-year sentence for trafficking more than 500 tons of cocaine. Does that not undercut the administration's stated goal, as you just said, to go after these narco-terrorists?
Number one, the former president of Honduras. So this is not someone who was in power, had any influence with the politics of Honduras any longer. Number two, I don't do the pardon file. I'm not against it or for it. I just didn't review the file, so I can't speak to you about the dynamics that led the president to make the decision that he made. He reviewed the file. He went through the arguments in it, and he felt that the former president of Honduras was treated very unfairly by the previous administration and made the decision that he made. But I think the answer, whether you agree with that decision or not, people can disagree. I mean, there's people out there who make a living out of disagreeing with anything President Trump does. That doesn't mean you leave Maduro in place. That doesn't mean you don't go after Maduro. That's not the answer. I see people saying that. It's like, well, how can you go after Maduro if you didn't do this? That's absurd. The answer to that, whether you have a problem with it or not, is not to leave in place someone who's been indicted, who hasn't even faced American justice yet.
I will say this. If we're talking about taking leaders who have been indicted across the world, you have ICC criminal arrest warrants issued against Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, Vladimir Putin in Russia, and there are other leaders as well facing ICC arrest warrants. Does that give us the ability to now legally go into Israel or Russia, capture Vladimir Putin, capture Netanyahu, bring them to The Hague to stand trial? Does that give us the authority to do that? They're double turning themselves. They don't really have an answer right now, and they're shifting the narrative as to what the future of Venezuela is.
Yeah, shifting the narrative. And that is another clip that is very interesting, and another clip that you should try to peruse. And I think if you type in, I think you should type in Marco Rubio. Let me think here. Marco Rubio fumbles explanation for valid reasons of the Venezuela invasion, something in that vein. Marco Rubio fumbles expression in relation to valid reasons for Venezuela invasion, something in that vein. And you'll see that whole interview with the journalist, who's very good at questioning him and going back to say things like, but that doesn't answer the question, let me reiterate, so and so and so and so. And in that interview, you're going to see an example of what I have been referring to for the morning in relation to politicians, present-day politicians. This has been sort of working its way out for some time. We've seen politicians changing gradually, and this is what we've wound up with presently. Politicians who aren't good at expressing anything. They lack the verbal ability to sit down and articulate any particular perspective that really validates what they want and what they do. But it seems as if the present stance of these politicians is, if you've got the power to do it, you don't need to give a valid explanation. You just mumble something and power speaks for itself. So that's another clip that you need to look at, where Marco Rubio is just again ranting about so many different things and not really making much sense. You notice when they want to do something, they just throw some words in there. Like, for instance, before they went for Maduro, they were saying things like Hezbollah is in Venezuela, and that kind of stuff. And apart from the jug part, and now he's saying all the people who were surrounding Maduro were Cubans. So that validates and gives them a reason to make Cuba next on the agenda, But I don't feel that the people who were surrounding Maduro were Cubans, because if you look at the history of the Cubans, when you engage them, it's not an easy fix. It's not an easy thing. That is why for all this time they've not been able to control Cuba, and I don't think they ever will be able to do that. All they're going to do, all the U.S. is going to do, is create more chaos in its own backyard, chaos that will eventually spill across the border into the U.S. if they're not careful. So they had better be careful that they're creating in their own proximity what they have created around the globe, that sort of a insecure atmosphere, that chaotic atmosphere that seems to have no end. So it seems as if though that is what they intend to do. Well, I'm fast approaching the end of this session for today. Again, let me apologize for you not being able to verbally interact with me, but that has been beyond my control. I've done all that I should do here in regards to the telephone line, and I've not been able to appease that. So my apologies for that. Let's hope that by tomorrow that would have sorted itself out. In the meantime, I'm going to see if I can play this last clip. And it speaks to the fact that when we look, for those of us who are students of history, when we look back at history, what we are seeing is a recurring theme. And historically, we are seeing that democracy is at work. Whether it is the kind of democracy that should exist, or it is the kind of democracy that we really want, the kind of democracy that will make the world a better place, that is a question perhaps that we will have to answer over time. But historically, we have been seeing democracy at work, and presently we're seeing that played out.
Congress was not briefed. The Gang of Eight was not briefed about these strikes beforehand. Secretary Rubio never spoke to Congress about any plans to arrest Maduro. Does the president have the unilateral legal authority to carry out large-scale strikes and capture the leader of a foreign country without congressional approval? Has this administration essentially declared war on Venezuela?
I would argue he does not have that power, because it was not just capturing the leader. It was also saying we're going to run the country. We're going to run a sovereign nation. This is a very dangerous thing for him to have done. And of course, it triggers the War Powers Resolution, which means within 48 hours, Congress must have a briefing. He does not have that unilateral authority.
And he says he will do it until such time. We did, and I'm sure you heard as well, hear the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, say that this was not something that fell under the auspices of going in and extracting a foreign diplomat or the head of a country. It was merely an arrest. It was a simple arrest of somebody, a criminal who'd been indicted by the United States. Does that make all of this legitimate? And do you agree with that assessment?
Sadly, we cannot trust the words of either Secretary Rubio or the President of the United States. In that press conference, they were in direct conflict with one another. Secretary Rubio tried to make it about policing and just simply arresting the president. If that were the case, then we would not be taking over the country. I would think that the Constitution of Venezuela, that their elections would prevail at that point. We cannot trust the words of either Secretary Rubio, who said we would not be going in for regime change, and that the boat strikes was such a great deterrent about drug trafficking. Do you recognize how neither the president nor Rubio are talking about drugs anymore? It was never about drugs. They pardoned two of the biggest cocaine traffickers on the planet.
Yeah, so like I was saying, democracy at work. A democracy where you have a Congress who just rants about this and rants about that and is in no position to make a difference. A democracy where you have a United Nations body that, again, people just go and just rant about this and expose and expound about that, and the world digs deeper into chaos. But as long as you tout the word democracy and freedom, freedom of elections and the right to vote and a one-man vote, as long as you tout those things, you can do whatever you want otherwise. And for those of you who might be wondering, why is it that Quint is placing so much emphasis on this Venezuela thing and this U.S. thing, and where Caribbean people, we have our own economies and our own country to run? Yeah, but how are we going? I play these because I want our leaders to get a reality check. And the reality check is this: how does the Caribbean adjust itself to survive in this kind of environment? This is what I want our leaders to understand. These are the questions our leaders must ask and find ways to deal with. Because if we do not ask these questions and find ways to deal with them, then all we will be are a bunch of slaves in a so-called modern day era. So the question then becomes, do we continue in this fragmented state where St. Kitts is touting St. Kitts and Trinidad and Tobago is touting Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana is touting Guyana, and the Latin American countries are touting the Latin American countries, and I thought we were supposed to be the Caribbean. I thought as a Caribbean unit we were supposed to be bonded together, but no, we never were. We never have been. And because we never were and we never have been, it has been easy to just twist us and turn us how they want. Because we, the English-speaking Caribbean, were fragmented. The Spanish-speaking Caribbean, fragmented. And now you see, look at the result. What has it benefited us? All those Latin American countries that benefited from what Cuba did and the Cuban army, not Cuba, Haiti did, when the Haitian army sent its soldiers throughout the Caribbean region to help to fight for equality and rights and a semblance of democracy that was deemed vital. Look what they did. All of them abdicated, every single one of them. And when they look into their history book, they can't dispute it. They can't dispute the part that Haiti played, but all of them presently turned a blind eye. And they see the struggle of Haiti, and they're looking for outside people to come and clean up our act. And the outside people are just observing and looking at how fragmented we are and how segregated we are. And rather than unifying This one is against that one. And a Trinidad and Tobago leader says, do what the people them tell you to do. Don't mess with the people them and you want to go into the people them country. You see what happened to Antigua and Barbuda? That's the present state we're in. So I want our leaders to be cognizant of that and ask themselves, has that done good for us? Should we or do we continue in that vein, or do we make some adjustments that are beneficial? Adjustment that isn't just about the St. Kitts Prime Minister going and feeling that he's mighty. Mighty where? Mighty how? Even if and when we unite as a region, we still have to face the whole global superpower structure. But at least within our proximity, we would have been united. At least within our proximity, that unity would have put us in a position where we can do things. Things like what? Things like stop letting this sea between us be a border. Because Antigua has all this, and Trinidad and Tobago has all that, and St. Kitts and Nevis has, and all these taxes and all these things that curtail us moving from one to the other, even to travel, to visit. Why can't we be tourists in our own region? Why can't I, if I want to relax and enjoy some sun in another Caribbean island, why does it have to be more expensive than going to Europe? But because we are fragmented, not unified, we allow some external powers to dictate this is what you do and that is what you do, and we accommodate. And look at what Trump has done. Trump is sending a message, and the message is, we're going to force you back to your various territories. We're going to push you out of our country. We're going to force you back into your territories, and we're going to make it so hard for you in those territories that all you can do is when we say jump, you say how high. And over the years, we've discouraged you from developing your agriculture, discourage you from doing certain things that will advance your region as a unified body. And look at it now. Look at us now. Are we self-sufficient in food, agriculture? No. We have a minister who says, when you ask certain questions about it, he said, well, that is a trade secret. And he's proud of that. Proud of other people's trade secret that deters and curtails our own survival in terms of food sustenance. I mean, can you ever be more daft than that? And these are the kind of leaders that we don't want. These are the kind of leaders we don't want to see in the future, because this is what it winds up to. If in the Caribbean region we had been unified, we can't say that Trump might not have done what he did, but maybe not, because the whole Caribbean region would have been unified as a body, and everybody would have said nay, and nobody would have been showing. And then you know what he would have had to have done? To just come in and put his force and not be able to point at someone and say, well, Trinidad and Tobago accommodated us, Grenada accommodated us, so-and-so accommodated us. No, you come in, you enforce your will, and all of us as a unified body look at each other and nod our heads and silently realize that, so that is how it works. Even when none of us give you a sanction, or you just do as you want. And then it sends a message to the next generation. So how are we going to deal with this in the future? How do we set ourselves in such a way that we can survive in this world? How do we deal in terms of business? How do we deal in terms of finances? Don't you see what they have done to us? Anyway, it's 2 minutes over 10 o'clock, and I'm going to be out of here. Again, I apologize for not being able to interact with you, because I do look forward to your interactions and your input. It saves me some breath, and whether you believe it or not. You know, I'm going to say this. It is amazing because people who don't know me and they hear me on WinFM 98.9, they think I'm a talker. Yes, I can speak. I have a voice. I'm fairly versed in the English language, so my vocabulary is not too bad. But I'm not much of a talker. If I had my way, I just go about my business and do the things I have to do. But I am here. I am put in this vein, and I believe if you have something to do, you do it. So I have this program, and the program has to run. And I cannot come here, turn the camera on, and sit down and look at you and be silent. Can I do that? No, I can't. I have to speak. And so because I have to speak and because I am able to speak, I do so. But other than that, I'm not much of a talker. So those of you who know me, you know me. You know, I go about my business. You don't hear me. People are amazed. People say, but Quint, I didn't know you could speak. But I can, and I do, and I will if I have to. And in this position, I have to. So, but if I had a different choice, I would choose not to and just go about my life, because I'm sure I'm not making a whole lot of friends sometimes with the way I express. And perhaps that is one of the reasons I don't express too much, because if I'm going to express, I express it how I see it. I express it the way it is. I can't do otherwise. So again, thank you for your time. Do take care. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow when Hortensia is back. And hopefully the phone system will be up and running.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Campari, Red Passion, embrace the mix.
Campari, Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari, Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion, embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly. Campari, Red Passion, embrace the mix.
Campari, Red Passion.